War rages on Cybertron, and things look bad for the Autobots. The Decepticons have broken through the front lines, contact has been lost with the capital, and Ratchet, Brawn, RC, Cliffjumper, Wheeljack, Ironhide, and several other survivors are pinned down under Decepticon assault until Optimus Prime arrives to momentarily repel their foes. Prime looks for Scout B-127, who appears only a moment after the arrival of Soundwave, Starscream and Shockwave on the battlefield, as well as the surge in Decepticon forces. Prompts Prime to order the Autobots to fall back to a launch pad. He instructs the Autobots to board escape pods and flee from the planet. He also gives B-127 a secret mission: go to Earth, a well-hidden planet Prime has identified, and establish a base for the Autobots to regroup and strike back. As the Seekers under Shockwave's command begin attacking the launchpad directly, Prime leaps into the horde of Decepticons to buy B-127's pod some time to escape. It's the summer of 1987, and Agent Jack Byrne's team of Sector 7 agents emerge victorious from a mock battle after leading Danny Bell and his team into an ambush. As Burns good-naturedly chides his unlucky opponent, however, an unknown projectile appears overhead and plows into their midst, injuring many agents. Burns, believing his team to be under projectile assault after confirming that no other military practices using live ammo are occurring nearby, immediately calls for backup. Upon which he comes face to face with B-127 rising from the crater. He immediately orders his forces to give chase, and the Autobot flees after scanning and transforming into a nearby military jeep. Even though the military attempts to capture him with harpoons and machine guns, B-127 evades them and emerges into a clearing leading to an empty mineshaft. Burns gives the order to cut it off from escaping into the mine, which one of his soldiers executes by blindsiding B-127 with his jeep. However, B-127 begins talking to the humans in English, assuring them of his peaceful intentions and that he is not here to hurt anyone. Burns orders the soldiers to stand down, only for a jet to appear overhead. Burns is baffled that the Air Force was alerted this early, but the robot corrects him. The plane is, in fact, the Decepticon Blitzwing, who bombards the clearing with missiles and swoops in to attack the yellow Autobot. B-127 puts up a valiant effort against Blitzwing and even manages to damage his opponent's flight systems, but is soon subdued and dangled over a cliff. Blitzwing interrogates the Scout about Optimus Prime and the Autobots' whereabouts. The Scout valiantly refuses and asserts that he will never talk, a move that prompts Blitzwing to make it official by ripping out his voice synthesizer. Badly injured, he is thrown off the cliff and prepared for execution. But B-127 uses a moment of quick thinking to rip a missile from the Decepticon's arm and shove it into his chest. B-127 takes advantage of the Decepticon's momentary confusion to kick himself away before opening fire on the missile, detonating it, and killing Blitzwing. As he limps away, Burns watches him leave trapped under a destroyed jeep. The Autobot crawls to a riverbank before collapsing from his injuries, with his memory cells critically damaged. His systems scan a nearby Volkswagen Beetle before he finally fades away to unconsciousness. In Brighton Falls, Charlie Watson, a 17-year-old girl one day away from turning 18, awakens from her slumber. Since Charlie isn't over her father's death yet, she brushes off her annoying younger brother Otis, and her mother Sally's infatuation with her new boyfriend Ron. Charlie bikes to her job at the boardwalk, where she is utterly humiliated in an encounter with Tina Lark and her posse. She visits Hank's Marine Repair and Parts after hours to look for car parts, discovering an old VW Beetle under a tarmac after accidentally knocking over some motorboats. She finds the key in the ignition and attempts to start it. but is surprised when the car emits an unintelligible signal. On one of Saturn's moons, Decepticon hunters Shatter and Dropkick interrogate Cliffjumper about Optimus Prime's whereabouts. The Autobot remains resolute, which angers his interrogators, until B-127's signal, activated on Earth by Charlie, reaches the three Transformers. The two Decepticons agree to go to Earth and hunt down B-127 instead, and Dropkick vertically bisects Cliffjumper, killing the Autobot. In a Texas trailer park, the dysfunctional couple, Roy and Amber, argue about Roy spending the down payment for their house on a tricked-out new car, among other things. Their spiel is interrupted when a meteor crashes mere feet from them, missing Roy's new car, much to his relief. However, he's not so lucky when a second one falls as it obliterates both his prized car and their house. Headlights shining from inside the inferno give the irresponsible man some hope until Shatter and Dropkick reveal themselves and transform before them. As Roy attempts to greet the newcomers, Dropkick kills the unlucky man and leaves Amber before the Decepticons drive off to the west coast following B-127's signal. Failing to make progress on repairing her late father's Corvette and feeling left out by her family, Charlie wakes up to the worst 18th birthday imaginable. The disappointing presents from Sally and Ron, a pink bicycle helmet and a book about smiling more, respectively, only worsen the feeling. She fumes in her bedroom before storming over to the auto repair and asking Hank for the Beetle. She even offers to work at the shop for a year in exchange for the car. But Hank refuses since he isn't hiring employees, and Charlie can take the car for free if she can get it to start. Charlie gets to work and soon triumphantly drives her new car home. Charlie parks her new Beetle in the garage but is surprised when a part falls out from its undercarriage. She's even more surprised when an inspection of the vehicle reveals what appears to be a face under the car. Moments before B-127 transforms and reveals himself to her. However, Charlie's only momentarily terrified as her fear turns to compassion upon seeing that the Autobot is about as afraid of her as she is of him. She manages to soothe the scared scout and emotionally connect with him, giving him the name, Bumblebee, after the warbled beeps and buzzes he makes. Agent Simmons relays the news of the Decepticons' landfall to Burns, who immediately prepares a team to travel to Texas and intercept them. Charlie awakens the next day and goes straight to the garage, but discovers to her horror that Bumblebee has vanished without a trace. A quick interrogation of Otis reveals Sally has appropriated Charlie's car to take their dog Conan to the vet, as Ron needed to use the family station wagon. Charlie frantically chases her mother on her moped and manages to pull her over, despite Bumblebee almost blowing his cover by extending an arm out from his trunk and waving at her. She later takes the Autobot to a secluded beach, where she teaches him that he should always assume vehicle mode unless the two of them are alone. Burns' team and Dr. Powell intercept the two Decepticons in Texas and ask them to state their business. Dropkick wants to eliminate the humans, but Shatter comes up with a better idea. Lying to the humans that they are a peacekeeping Decepticon patrol. She asks Sector 7's aid in tracking down the dangerous escaped criminal, B-127. While Burns is doubtful, Powell, enthusiastic at the prospect of first contact with an alien species, eagerly agrees to talk to his superiors about the matter. Bumblebee and Charlie bond in a secluded forest. But when B's chest starts sparking from the damage he took during his fight with Sector 7, Charlie attempts to fix it, only to activate a holographic message sent by Optimus Prime accidentally. While the message is garbled and incomplete, hearing it jolts a memory in Bumblebee. Leaping from the collapsing launch pad and latching onto a seeker to make his way down. Optimus fights his way through several seekers before Soundwave deploys Ravage to attack him. Prime manages to fight off the feline minion with some effort, But his distraction has allowed dozens of Decepticons, including Soundwave, Shockwave, and Starscream, to surround him. The Decepticons move in to attack the Autobot leader even as B-127 watches. Unable to help, from his departing escape pod, Charlie realizes that Bumblebee is on the run from something serious. When he attempts to use his broken radio, she decides she can at least fix that. And they return to her garage, where she sets about extracting the radio from the Corvette. Bumblebee starts playing a video, which turns out to be footage of her last dive meet made by her father shortly before his death. She installs the radio in Bumblebee, though he forcefully ejects the music tapes she inserts into him. While she's looking through her tapes, he starts thumbing through her father's LPs, and she scolds him. However, after she notices a specific record, her mood changes, and she starts playing it. Recalling how she and her father used to listen to it while working on the Corvette. She tells B how her father died of a heart attack, and she's continued working on the car in his memory. At Sector 7, General Whalen leads a discussion over whether to allow the Decepticons access to their equipment. Burns believes they can't trust the Decepticons. But Whalen promises to turn them over to him once they track down B-127. Shatter and Dropkick are duly introduced to Sector 7's array of computers, though they're more interested in the telephone network. As Bumblebee plays with his new radio, Charlie's neighbor Memo stumbles into the garage, intending to ask Charlie on a date, and is shocked at the sight of the giant robot. Charlie swears him to secrecy, and the pair go for a drive in Bumblebee. Charlie borrows Memo's shirt so she can show off by driving blindfolded, and they hang out of Bumblebee's sunroof. Dr. Powell marvels over the radio at the massive worldwide interconnected web the Decepticons are constructing using the computers and telephone network to track energon signatures. Burns still has his misgivings, but Whalen believes they can turn the technology on the Decepticons. Still driving in Bumblebee, Charlie and Memo realize that the reason the Autobot has been playing with his radio is to teach himself to speak with it. They arrive at a cliff by the seaside, where Trip Summers challenges Charlie to dive off the cliff. When she's unable, despite urging from Bumblebee, she's cruelly mocked by Tina, though Charlie claims not to be bothered. Memo and Bumblebee both want revenge. That night, they head to Tina's house and attempt to educate Bumblebee on the art of throwing toilet paper and eggs. This doesn't go well, culminating in Bumblebee enthusiastically jumping on Tina's car and the trio making a quick getaway before she emerges to find the damage. Their frantic driving is spotted by Sheriff Locke, who gives chase in his cruiser. Bumblebee is easily able to outmaneuver Locke's vehicle, which ends up totaled as a result. The three fugitives return to Charlie's home, where they say their good nights. The next morning, Charlie tells Bumblebee he needs to stay in the garage as the authorities will be looking for him, and leaves for her job. Bumblebee instead ends up following Conan into the house, and his curious exploration ends up demolishing just about everything in the living room and kitchen. Finally, he ends up plugging himself into a wall socket, causing an energon-infused power surge that travels down nearby power lines. The equipment at Sector 7 detects the surge, and the Decepticons roll out, closely followed by Burns and his men. Memo also notices the commotion, so he calls Charlie, who returns home where the pair survey the devastation. Memo manages to get Bumblebee back into the garage, but Charlie realizes she's screwed. Meanwhile, the Decepticons have reached Brighton Falls. Sally returns home with Otis to find the destruction. An argument ensues between her and Charlie, who ends up storming out. Charlie and Memo go driving to cool off, but they run into a roadblock set up by Sector 7. Charlie tries to keep Bumblebee calm, but when the Sector 7 soldiers seize her, Bumblebee transforms and carries her off. Unfortunately, they immediately run into Shatter and Dropkick, who attempt to interrogate Bumblebee but are perplexed when the Autobot doesn't try to fight back. Burns and his men arrive and start zapping Bee with electrical guns. And Charlie gets knocked out when she attempts to help him. Charlie wakes up in her bed and emerges from her room to find Agent Burns telling her parents that she had stolen valuable government equipment. Despite her protests, her mom banishes her back to her room. She promptly slips out through her window, and Otis catches her trying to get Memo's attention by throwing rocks at his window. She manages to stop him from alerting her mother. Joining Memo in his house, they watch a news report about Sector 7 setting up shop at McKinnon Air Base. And Charlie reasons that's where they're holding Bumblebee. Otis is assigned to keep the plan secret while Charlie and Memo head to the base. At the airbase, Powell watches the two Decepticons interrogate Bumblebee. Charlie and Memo sneak into the base in time to watch as the Decepticons inadvertently trigger Optimus Prime's recording, revealing that the Autobots are coming to Earth. As the Decepticons discuss the presented opportunity, Powell realizes their mistake in cooperating with the giant evil robots and tries to radio a warning to Burns before Dropkick kills him. Sally and Ron pick over the debris in their house, and Otis is entirely unsuccessful at convincing them that Charlie is still in her room. Shatter locates a nearby communications tower they can use to call in the Decepticon army. Once Dropkick blasts Bumblebee, the pair depart, and Charlie and Memo run to the lifeless Autobots' side. Charlie believes they can still revive him using the electrical guns, and though at first, it seems as though she's unsuccessful, Bumblebee sits up, and his memories start to restore. Agent Burns and his men arrive outside and blow up the exterior door before advancing inside. Charlie tells Bumblebee to run as the troops attempt to take her and Memo away. But the soldiers harpoon Bee. It's not until Burns throws Charlie to the ground that Bumblebee finds the strength to get up and start blasting, unfazed by anything the humans throw at him. Sector 7 retreats, but Charlie has to talk Bumblebee down. Charlie tries to persuade him that they need to hide, but Bumblebee is set on stopping the Decepticons. While Charlie leaves in B, Memo tries unsuccessfully to slow down the pursuing Sector 7 vehicles. As Bumblebee and Charlie race through Brighton Falls, pursued by Sector 7, they're joined by Sally and Ron in the station wagon. Though Ron manages to obstruct Burns's vehicle successfully, he ends up spinning out as they approach a set of traffic lights. And there's an almost pileup as multiple vehicles skid to a halt just inches from hitting each other. Shatter and Dropkick blend their technology into the communications tower at the port in preparation to send their message. Bumblebee arrives and has Charlie hide in a garbage bin for protection before he begins shooting the tower, prompting Dropkick to descend and engage the Autobot in a fierce fight. An errant missile throws Charlie from her hiding place, and, seeing Bumblebee occupied, she heads for the tower. Narrowly avoiding Bumblebee and Dropkick's fight, she starts ascending a nearby crane. Burns also arrives in a helicopter, ordering the pilot to open fire on the communications tower. The battle below moves into a dry dock, with Dropkick transforming to helicopter mode to fire at Bumblebee. Bumblebee throws a chain that hits the Decepticon's rotors, wrapping around Dropkick as he changes to robot mode and allowing Bumblebee to terminate him. Charlie reaches the top of the crane and jumps across to the tower. Above her, Shatter shoots down the Sector 7 helicopter, sending it plunging towards the ground. Bumblebee manages to grab it before it can crash, saving Burns's life. Charlie moves to disconnect the Cybertronian power source, and when Shatter transforms into jet mode to stop her, Bumblebee shoots down the Decepticon. During the ensuing fight on the ground, Charlie successfully disconnects the tower's power source. An enraged Shatter pounds on Bumblebee, who shoots the wall of the dry dock. Shatter mocks him for missing until the wall gives way. and Shatter gets crushed between a ship and the side of the dock. As Bumblebee sinks to the bottom of the flooded dock, Charlie overcomes her fear and dives in, finding Bumblebee at the bottom and helping him to get back to the surface. Finally seeing Bumblebee's true nature, Burns tells the pair they need to make their escape before the rest of Sector 7 arrives, and as they leave, Memo turns up just slightly too late to save the world. Bumblebee and Charlie end up on a hill overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge, where Charlie tells the Autobot that she can't interfere with his greater purpose, and they have to go their separate ways. After a tearful farewell, Bumblebee scans a passing Camaro as his new alternate mode and drives off to rendezvous with Optimus Prime on the bridge, leaving to continue his mission. Charlie returns home and reunites with her family and Memo. That night in a nearby forest, Optimus commends Bumblebee on keeping Earth safe. As the two watch more Autobot refugees appear in the sky over Earth. Not far away, Charlie successfully gets the Corvette running and takes it for a first drive,